It is Tuesday, May 16th, and the Give and Go Show is back in your life. My name is Griffin Queen, and as always, I'm joined by Matt Ferentinos and Matt Modi. Before we get going, if you're watching us on YouTube, click that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already to stay in the know whenever we drop a new episode. We drop these weekly. And comment below who you think is going to win the conference finals for both the East and the West. In the West, we've got the Nuggets and the Lakers. In the East, we have the Celtics and the Heat, a rematch of the 2020 bubble. Today, we're going to be talking about those conference finals. We're going to be talking about a few takeaways from the second round of the NBA playoffs. We're also going to be giving our finals predictions, which we've given, a few times
yeah,
over the course of the season. And I mean, look, you keep narrowing it down because I think my original one may have been like Clippers Bucks, and that's no longer a possibility. So we're going to narrow it down among the four teams that are left, and we'll see if we get it right this time. And then we're going to talk right at the end of the episode a little bit about the draft lottery, which is tonight, determining which teams are going to get picks within the lottery. Some teams have really good odds. Some teams have some okay odds. My Wizards have decent odds actually to finish in the top four, and I imagine that they're going to finish with the 8th to the 10th pick. Yeah. Ferentino, something is going on with your audio.
Is it my audio?
When you do that,
probably mute yourself before you do that.
Is it good now though?
Yeah,
you're good.
It was just when you were doing that. Yeah.
I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay.
I couldn't hear you for a second, so I was seeing if it was on my end or not.
Got it. Okay. Well, I hope you can hear me now. It seems like you can because we're having a conversation. Guys, before we get into it, any what have you been up to outside of watching basketball? And Modi, I know you've been playing a lot of video games.
Yeah, a lot of video games. I haven't watched anything new. I've just been I have a basement and then a regular floor, depending on what floor I'm on is what anime I'm watching, because I can't. Well, the reason why is because I'm caught up past.
So upstairs you watch anime and downstairs you watch hentai, is what you're saying?
No, it's because the TV upstairs I can't not screen record. When I want to put I can't think of the word screen share.
Screen share.
Yeah, to my phone to the TV.
I was trying to think of that word a week ago, and I don't know the word for it. Where you when you push it from your phone to the TV.
Yeah, I forget. There's like a term for it that your phone uses, but it doesn't work on the TV upstairs. So I've just been rewatching Full Metal on your Crunchyroll
AirPlay
account.
Is AirPlay the word?
Yes, it's AirPlay. Yeah,
AirPlay. Yeah. Right.
But if I'm downstairs, because I'm past the One Piece part, where it's not I'm past where One Piece is on Netflix. So I've just been watching it on some stream on my phone, and then I'll cast or AirPlay that to the TV in the basement. So I know people probably care a lot about what I'm watching and where I'm watching it. And
I care.
That is the details.
I'm a fan of yours. Ferentino's probably a fan of yours, maybe.
Is your setup better than Ben Simmons?
His is pretty nice.
Yeah, his is pretty nice.
Here's my thing with his setup, though. You got the kind of money you have, and you're only rocking one TV.
A lot of chairs.
That's the problem. Not enough TVs. You got to have
the women don't watch TV. They just do the cocaine and look at him, and then he watches the TV. I imagine that's usually
hung out with a decent number of women over the course of my 31 years. I've known them to watch TV. I mean, I feel like.
Have you ever had NBA money though?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I feel like that would make me more inclined to watch TV because I'd be like, oh shit, our friend is on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have a few more subscribers to the Give and Go Show, Griffin. You got to get on that.
I need that Ben Simmons money. You're right.
Simmons
People often compare me to Ben Simmons.
that Ben Simmons money and then work just as infrequently as Ben Simmons.
In the way that you succeed, Griffin.
I'll take Ben Simmons money, whether it's Ben Simmons, the NBA player, or Ben Simmons, Bill Simmons' son, because either way, that's a 100 millionaire right there. I'm doing fine.
Is his son really Ben Simmons?
His son's name is Ben Simmons. So he always specifies Ben Simmons, my son. It's like, we know based on context who you're talking about, Bill. But I get it.
Not the one I despise.
Not the one he despises, yeah. So you're catching up on you're making progress on One Piece again? You're just watching through that?
Yeah, I mean I'm caught up on the manga. I've just been rewatching the anime just because I'm interested just to see, it's kind of cool, and I don't have to really pay that close attention to it.
Yeah.
So I'm at Thriller.
Nice.
I don't know how far you are, but I'm at
Thriller Bark.
Yeah.
I've done, I mean, when I first did it, I've been past Thriller Bark. I'm probably going to start over at the point where they get to the Grand Line. Going back all the way to the beginning is just such a slog that Grand Line is minimum of where I need to start.
Yeah, what was that, like Alabasta?
The old man, yeah.
Yeah, post getting into the Grand Line. I think Alabasta's either the first or the second arc. Because there's like Ennie's Lobby and all that stuff.
It's the
I don't
second
know
one.
the
There's the
order.
Giants. The
Yeah.
Giants fighting.
Yeah. I think that's before. That's like when they're getting
That's
to
before
Alabasta.
Alabasta. Yep.
Yeah, it's like they meet Zoro, then they meet Usopp, then
Yeah.
Sanji,
Zoro,
then
Sanji, Usopp.
Nami.
Or
Well,
no, I guess Usopp and then Sanji.
and then
I don't
Nami
remember.
officially when they go to like Fishman Island.
Yeah.
Not
Which
Fishman-
has one of the best scenes in the show when Nami is stabbing the shit out of her arm and like sobbing on the ground.
and
And then Luke
stops her.
just walks up and puts his hat on her. And then the four of the badasses are just like walking up the street. Fucking coolest shit that's ever happened. Like
that was really cool.
That scene is the only reason why I recommend people start from the beginning, because like the build up to that is basically like that's essentially the start of the show, because that's like the OG crew. But if you don't have a connection to the characters before they do that moment, it's like, who cares about this?
Yeah.
Which it's kind of a bummer that you've got to wait for like 40 to 50 not so great episodes to get to that moment. But it all kind of speeds up a lot after that.
Hey, Usopp's Pirates. The conspiracy to take down the rich girl and the
Yeah, that
island
was
and
cool.
the butler.
Usopp and the three little children that he hangs out with.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of creeps in anime.
Do you think,
Ferentinos, what have
a
you
lot of
been up to?
mangakas and I was gonna say translators get arrested
Ugh.
for things. So
Yeah,
it's
the author
questionable.
of my favorite, or my original, like as a growing up as a kid, my favorite anime ever, Rurouni Kenshin, it was found with like a terabyte of child pornography on his
It's like the lead singer
and
Lost
he
Prophet.
didn't go to prison. They were like, here's a $5,000 fine, and he's like, cool, back at it.
Okay, that's fucked up. But I was gonna say that's like the lead singer of Lost Prophets. Have you heard that story?
Yeah,
Not great.
It's
that's
not
worse. That's worse.
Yeah.
Japan. There's not a lot of children to harm, so maybe that's why the punishment isn't as bad.
That's a really sad reason. That's a really, really sad response. You might be right, but like I think also just their cultural values are different. Yeah. There's certain things that they can get away with, but then if you get found with like an ounce of weed, you go to prison for like 60 years.
I mean, look at like the Black Clover like profiles. It's like just a stacked ass girl. It's like Charlotte, 14 years old. I'm like, what the fuck?
Or like we've made jokes about it before, where it's like some like high pitched little like 4 foot nothing girl, and you'll be like, oh, how old is this one? 9? And she'll be like, I'm 10,000. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Like we know you're just trying to get around things for the creeps that watch this.
Yeah.
It bums me out. Ferentinos, what have you
speaking
been up to
of
before
dope anime I've been watching, Demon Slayer. I'm catching up on that because there's like 8 episodes out of the Swordsman Village arc. And so that's super dope. Or the Sword Maker, they're like where they build the swords.
Mhm.
I've been
Pretty
watching Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga has been killing me because they're freaking cliffhangers. I mean, it's all anime, but like 23-minute episodes weekly, it just does not leave you enough. So they're at like it's getting to the climax of the season, and it's like the episode right before some shit happens. But then other shit like Succession I've been watching, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Are you caught up on Succession?
I am, yeah. I just watched
So I heard last night's episode. I saw people tweeting about it. Maybe it wasn't last night's. I guess it's Sunday night's episode.
Yeah, it was dope.
There was like I guess like a Trump analog or something like that. And there's been a Trump analog for the past like season. And like the way that they were like calling the election. I saw a lot of people who were terminally online, and I'm gonna straight up say like terminally online people being like, this episode gave me a panic attack and I can never watch it again. And like I don't want to be insensitive, but also like shut the fuck up. Like maybe understand that like you're watching a TV show and this is about a fake election with everyone involved being fake, and like just because it's similar to a real world event, which everything worked out relatively fine for everybody tweeting about this shit. Like you're a blogger for the Ringer or something like that. You're fine.
Just vote.
Yeah, just vote.
Just like get off your ass. Yeah, just do your civic duty.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but it was good. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. I guess I understand why people were talking about it, but it didn't seem that nuts. Like I thought some crazier shit would happen. I was like, oh, okay, like that's it. And people were just, I guess, shocked at how they come to those decisions. I'm like, you're you're really shocked by this, that like, and it's an exaggeration. It's basically like
Right.
politicians getting in the bed of media and corporations, and it's like, you
And the
don't think
family
that
in the
happens?
show
They
is based
literally,
off of the Murdoch family. Like,
yeah.
and I don't like the show. I'm gonna say that right now. I don't like the show. I don't enjoy shows where nobody
Dude,
is
it's not like the
likable.
characters, yeah, because
Yeah,
nobody
like,
is redeemable at all.
if I have
yeah.
no one to root for, I can't get into a show. It's why I didn't really like Breaking Bad very much.
What about It's Always Sunny?
Always Sunny, I root for those characters. I root for them to fail in the most entertaining
way.
Yeah. Whereas in Succession, I'm like, well, at the end of this, you're still a billionaire. Like, your failures are still literally the absolute like tippity top height of success for the human race.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, I was kind of trolling.
Bad happens to you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's not a really compare. I was mostly trolling just because like there's nobody redeemable in Always Sunny, but yeah, I started Succession. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, so.
No, it's good. Brian Cox kills it. I mean, it's just current right now and it's coming out now. So I've just been keeping up with that. Watching through The Mandalorian, which I forgot how many bangers were in season 2. Like, just saw, you both have seen all the Mandalorian episodes, right?
I'm not caught
the
up on
current season.
Yeah, season 2,
no,
yes.
So season 2. So it's just like
season 2 I've seen.
The Ahsoka and Boba episodes back to back. I forgot like how freaking crazy those were. And then they steal Grogu, and I'm like, we're about to watch the finale next week. I'm like, it's so good. Like, what happens? The fucking Luke scene.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's a pretty cool
literally,
scene.
like, maybe the best, one of the best scenes and my favorite scenes in like Star Wars history. I think like just all the media that
Darth Vader in Rogue One when he's boarding Tantive 4 and he kills like 30 rebels.
The scene.
That is the best scene in Star Wars. That's like undoubtedly.
The scene of him like coming out to the smoke was my phone background for like 3 years. It was like so cool.
Because you don't see really him be, I mean, like, it's like the older stuff that he fights in, but you don't really get to see. Like,
no, because it's, I mean, like everything of him in the suit is like, it's like 70s and 80s, you know, choreography and film technology and everything.
Yeah.
And you've got like this piece of shit suit that some huge person had to be inside of for hours at a time. Like, things have evolved so much since then.
And ideally, he still is like a robot, but like just to see the
his body's still
and,
fucked
like,
up. But he just mows through people. He's the fucking juggernaut.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so good. And I just finished Andor last week, which was
Andor was great. I liked Andor.
That show is so good.
Andor was great. Yeah.
Yeah. It only took us a long time to get through it because we were watching so many things at the same time. But I'm really glad. Like, once we got to episode like 5, we basically knocked out the last 7 or so in like a week. And it was a good ride. I can't.
Really good cast too in Andor.
Incredible cast, incredible writing. In my opinion, the best piece of Star Wars, like comprehensive Star Wars media out there.
I can't help but think that guy looks like a young Pedro Pascal.
That's what Julia confuses the two of them all the time. I mean, Diego Luna and Pedro Pascal, both Hispanic men.
But they have the same look. I guess
they do similar things with their facial hair. They've been in stuff together. They've been in projects together. I think they were. I don't remember if Diego Luna was in Narcos, but I know Pedro Pascal and Diego Luna, I think, have been in things together. They're always on the red carpet together, so I think they're friends.
Yeah.
I understand the confusion with that one, but I think we've talked enough about Star Wars and anime and Japanese pedophiles.
Hoops, baby.
Let's talk about basketball.
It had been a while since we had some nerd talk, though. We
haven't done it in a while. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's playoffs. It's the playoffs. Like, the NBA finally matters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do like to talk the other stuff when we can. Let's do some quick takeaways from the second round. And Moda, I hate to throw it to you first. I just want to give you like a brief, like a minute. Like, let's just do a minute. I want to give you a minute's event about the Sixers collapse, losing in 7 games after going up 3-2. Floor is yours.
Let's get a grind my gears like segment here.
Honestly. So honestly, if we had done a podcast on Friday after Game 6, I would have been way more heated than I am now. Because it was like, Game 6 is what killed me, because they had that game. They were down by like 15. They took a haymaker, and then they went up by 5 in the fourth quarter. And like, even if they just had regular old below average offense, they would have won. But it was like they scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, like 10 points.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah. And it was like, if they had just done anything, they would have won. So game 6 is what killed me. Game 7, it was like I was just pissing on my grave. Like I was already dead at that point. You can't kill a dead man. And the fact that they got blown out in the third quarter was like, well, there's no suspense here. Like they're just gonna lose. The thing that was really upsetting for me personally was seeing Embiid go out as bad as he did, because I've defended him his whole career, and I never was defending like, oh no, he's actually better than Jokic in the playoffs. It was just I never thought that the stats adequately portrayed how he played in the playoffs. But he just went out sad. Like I was always able to say you could tell he was playing hard, but I did not feel that way at game 7. It was like he looked like it was a preseason game. Like I don't know if his knee hurt, if he was tired, or if he was just shook and just like done.
He had Tears of the Kingdom downloaded.
Yeah, he was ready to. Doc is playing golf. Harden needs to go to strip clubs. Embiid's going to play some Switch.
Would you see Harden was going to Vegas apparently during the playoffs? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Doc gave him the okay. Honestly, after Vegas is when he had his best games. I think they should have let him go to Vegas more.
More, yeah.
I mean, that was the Dennis Rodman system.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
let the man party and then win 3 titles with him. Yeah, a very good Dennis system.
Yeah, the OG Dennis system. So now it's like, where do they go from here? It's like, who knows? They fired Doc. So recording this after they fired Doc, which I would have been way happier if they had done that like at the past 2 years, more so than now. I feel
never hire him would have been a really great choice.
Would have been. They apparently the rumor was they were debating between him, Ty Lue, and D'Antoni, and I forget who wanted who, but Simmons wanted one guy, Embiid wanted the other guy, but they were both fine with Doc, so they didn't want to be like, oh, we're choosing Joel's guy or we're choosing Ben's. I don't know if that's true. That's just what the rumor on the street is. So they went with Doc. I hated it from the beginning. He should have been fired after the Hawks series. He should have been fired after last year. It was 3 years too late.
What do you think about the stuff I've just been reading? Because now it's like when it rains, it pours for the Sixers. All the articles come out. It's like the same thing. It
happens
with the
every
Nets.
year.
Yeah, whenever the team loses, then you get
happened with the Warriors last week.
Yeah. So I've seen just the stuff about the reason why their failure and why like the process didn't end up working is because they cater to Embiid and Simmons so much, and that might be why they can't elevate themselves, and why they fucked up and not keeping Jimmy Butler. Really, it was like because he was just not okay with babying superstars basically, and probably was getting on Ben Simmons about, it's like, why the fuck are you shooting with your left hand, idiot? I bet he did that shit. Like, and they just did not have it.
Why are you paying Tobias Harris $130 million?
Yeah, like, why
are you firing Brett Brown for a lateral move to Doc Rivers?
I mean, I think the Nets fucked up by catering to what KD wanted. So I just was curious if it's like, you think it was the same thing that happened to the Sixers, and if that's like the cost of just like bending over for superstars to really like come to your team.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I never thought if they catered to Embiid, they would have kept Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm so tired of like the process never worked arguments, because it's like they got 3 overall number 1 picks. It's not our fault that Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz either never knew how to shoot or forgot how to shoot. And they got an MVP candidate. Like, yeah, he was awful in the playoffs, but like the whole point of the process was to get you high-end talent like Embiid, Simmons, and Fultz. What failed,
homegrown talent,
what
maximize lottery picks.
Yeah, what failed the Sixers was when they hired Brian Colangelo. Because if you look at his 3-year run, it's brutal. It's terrible.
It's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's what killed them. And then not re-signing Jimmy Butler because they wanted to keep Ben Simmons. But I do think, I forgot where I was going, but I do think what's kind of funny is this was probably Doc's best coaching year from his 3 years on the Sixers. Like, I personally don't necessarily blame him for the Celtics collapse. Like, to me, that was an Embiid and Harden thing. Like, what is he supposed to do? Like, hey, Harden, stop throwing it out of bounds. Or Embiid, stop turning it over when like freaking Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum are guarding you. Like, the Hawks series was brutal. The Heat series last year was brutal. I don't put this one on Doc. I put it on Embiid and Harden. And like the game 6 thing, which sucks.
I think there has to be some degree of blame placed on Doc.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying zero.
I would put Embiid and Harden above him. It's just such a pattern with Doc that like at a certain point it would be ignorant of us to ignore the pattern, because he does this more than any coach in NBA history ever has. So there's something historic to it. And like immediately, and he hasn't had the opportunity this time because they fired him. But if he was not fired, I'm sure he'd be throwing his players under the bus, and he wouldn't be throwing just James and Harden, or just Harden and Embiid. He'd be throwing the role players under the bus, even the guys that played well.
Yeah, I mean, let me be clear. I'm not saying that they should have kept Doc. I'm just saying, like, of all the 3 years, I think this was his best coaching job. That's all I'm saying.
Sure,
like, I'm not saying he was without fault for the collapse, but I of all 3 of their playoff collapses the past 3 years, I put this the least amount on Doc than the other 2 is all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, like, we'll see what happens with Harden. My official Harden is a loser, playoff loser take was a wild roller coaster ride, but I'm claiming victory after the last 2 games. Because
could you imagine though, what if Houston, I think the lottery might impact what it does. Yeah, because it's like, oh, Harden could go back if they get Wembanyama or even Scoot. I could see Scoot maybe not as much because it's a guard, but like, oh yeah, if Wembanyama ends up in Houston, like I think Harden's gone.
Here's my thing with that though. Harden goes back to Houston, even if they've got Wemby. You're probably moving Şengün at that point. You've got Jalen Green. You've got
Porter.
Like, you've got all these pieces, but with like the exception of Harden, and I know he's not the playoff performer that he needs to be. None of those guys are even remotely ready for the playoffs. And Wemby might get them closer, but I don't think he's going to come out of the gate and be a guy who's going to add 20 wins to that team, particularly when the rest of the team is winning like 18 games. Like, Harden's timeline just doesn't match with these guys. He might go back.
Harden raises the floor a lot though of teams. I mean,
but they're going to have to play Harden style basketball. And is Jalen Green going to develop in Harden style basketball? I say probably not.
The off ball stuff. I mean, it's kind of a victim of like LeBron's teammates too. Yeah. When you have like a floor general,
LeBron wins in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's like you're getting the downsides of Harden without the upsides of LeBron. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, if I were him and I like the situation in Houston and like I've made amends with Fertitta and all that shit, yeah, go back, get another like $200 million bag. Like, why wouldn't you?
If you're happy in Houston,
yeah,
then whatever. Like, who can, like, just go back.
And by all accounts, he was happy in Houston. It was an organizational problem that made him want to leave. It wasn't like, I don't want to be in this city. I think ideally for him, he would have retired in that city.
Easy ring in Brooklyn was the
that's what he thought. That's what he thought he was getting.
Yeah, he. So we talked about this a little bit. He thought he was going to be going to the Sixers.
Yeah,
but like always thought he was going to the Sixers.
Originally,
Fertitta's beef with Morey is why they traded him to the Nets as opposed to the Sixers.
Yeah,
like, he refused to trade with the team that employed Daryl Morey. Which is like, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face, because he probably would have gotten better assets back from Philly.
But that's the thing. Like, Ben Simmons would have been like the centerpiece of that deal. Like, at least they have all of Brooklyn's draft picks. So I don't necessarily know if that was a worse trade for the.
I think it may have ended up working out for them in hindsight because of how Brooklyn collapsed. But if anybody were to say at the time who's probably going to have the better like picks and assets to give you at the time, I mean, everybody was saying Philly had the better assets at the time.
Yeah.
Then Brooklyn did what Brooklyn, I'm sorry, Ferentinos, but like they Brooklyn did.
I mean, Sixers only made it one more round, so
yeah, it's true. And hey, look, the Wizards were in the playoffs. So I sent you guys that picture earlier about the Wizards having the worst winning percentage in the 21st century.
God, so bad.
Yeah,
42%, something like that.
That's 42.4% of the time.
Give us
they're good for like a 35 win season every year.
If you just bet on them to lose every game, you'd be a happy gambler.
Depends on the odds.
Depends on the odds, yeah. Because I'm sure Vegas is aware of this too. Yeah. We ended up talking about Philly a lot more than I had intended to. We don't need to go around every single different series. Obviously, the Heat had a hugely impressive win over the Sixers. The Lakers, in my opinion, a relatively impressive series over the Warriors, particularly the way that people were talking about the Warriors prior to the series. Obviously, there's still flaws there, and there were a couple games where the Warriors blew the Lakers off the court. But I think you could see, like, in the aggregate, the Lakers were the better team, and they had, even with Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things, like LeBron James and Anthony Davis doing LeBron James and Anthony Davis things, were more than enough to overcome Clay having bad games and Jordan Poole being a guaranteed turnover and all the things that basically the Warriors were counting on not happening. Who else we have? Nuggets played amazingly. They lost those 2 games to the Suns, but I don't think at any point during that series I was never in doubt that the Nuggets were going to come away with it.
Those
I
were
think we had
games that,
said,
yeah,
Go
Booker
ahead.
and KD had to go nuclear on to win.
Yeah.
Nuclear.
Yeah. I mean,
to win.
look, straight up, the
And,
2 of them in those 2 games, they dropped like 80 points back to
yeah.
back.
And the
Pretty much,
Nuggets
yeah.
still
Like the
almost
best
won those
shooting
games.
splits we've ever seen.
And
Yeah.
that was the Jokic like 50-point triple double
50-point,
game,
yeah.
which was
Yeah.
freaking. And that's why like Murray didn't even play that well that game, but just to watch the 2-man game, like I'm excited to see the battle of the Titans. It's kind of funny how like the NBA is sort of they went towards small ball. I still think it's going towards like positionless basketball where everyone is going to be 6'8" to 7'2" and be able to have handles and shoot and need to like space the floor. But to see like 2 teams with more or less traditional centers, I mean, like at least the size of centers with Jokic and AD kind of go at it. It's pretty exciting and kind of like a reverse trend from what's been winning lately, which is like the Warriors won again. The Celtics are a very balanced team with really good wings that shoot threes. But I do like the teams in the West for that reason, because I think not a lot of teams are built to stop like teams just with Titans like AD or Jokic.
Yeah. I mean, the exception of the Celtics, no matter who advances from the 4 teams that are left, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Heat, and the Celtics, 3 of those teams have 3 of the top 6 big men in the league, top 7 between Bam Adebayo, Nikola Jokic, and Anthony Davis. And then depending on how you want to feel about LeBron, whether he's a point guard some days and a center other days. And I mean, the Celtics have that really dangerous combo of Al Horford and Robert Williams, where neither one of them is giving you perfect minutes for an extended period of time. But if they're each giving you a good 20 minutes, like between the Tatum Brown combo and Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White, like they're just an incredibly deep team. So maybe they don't need an all NBA center. There's some very interesting matchups that are coming up for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see how the rematches. I mean, it's both bubble rematches with the conference finals, which is crazy because it's not a fraud anymore. And I mean,
I was gonna say, do you think people are gonna call this about Mickey?
I was rooting for the Sixers to beat the Celtics. But this, like, as somebody who has defended the bubble and the results of the bubble, so
it was so much fun basketball.
so
like,
aggressively over the past few
bubble.
years. Like this is the perfect result. Yes, the Heat and the Celtics were in the same position last year, and I see people keep commenting that, but the Nuggets and the Lakers were not. So the fact that all 4 of these teams are in this position again 4 years later, and arguably the Heat, not even arguably, the Heat and the Lakers are worse teams than they were.
Yeah.
And they've still made it to the conference finals again. Like, if you're still at the point where you're trying to tear down the bubble and the results of it, you don't know ball. Like, that's the reality of it. You don't.
And the thing is, like, with the Nuggets, you know what's similar from this championship run, this playoff run to the bubble playoff run? They have Jamal Murray. Like, he didn't play in either of the last 2 playoffs. So like, you could very easily, I mean, obviously injuries happen, so you can't take it away, but you can say, like,
Go look at who the Nuggets had in 2021 in the playoffs.
Chris Chiozza was starting.
Yeah, fucking Austin Rivers was getting put out there. And Austin Rivers is not an awful player, but this is like year 13 Austin Rivers, like in his early 30s. Like he's not a starting guard.
Yeah. And they still went to the second round of the playoffs. That's the crazy part. Is like they beat the Blazers in the first round.
The Blazers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for these playoffs. Let's start with tonight's game. We're going to talk about them a little bit. We have Lakers Nuggets tonight, and we have Heat Celtics tomorrow. Lakers Nuggets. Just want to talk through it about a little bit and give our predictions both for tonight's game and for the series. I will start because I am the Lakers fan. I want to say this before we get going. I am 3-0 in this jersey since I received it. I got it during Game 3, I think, is when Jared gave it to me.
Yeah.
I wore it for 2 straight games. Took it off in between games, obviously, so that it didn't get like dirty or whatever. And then I was like, okay, I've been sweating in this high intensity, whatever. Put it in the laundry. Did not wear it for Game 5. The Lakers get beat the fuck up in Game 5. Comes out of the laundry. Put it back on for Game 6. The Lakers cruise to an easy win in Game 6. 3-0.
You can't watch that bad boy until after the playoff run.
Well, I feel like here's what I got to do. I'm fine watching it. I just got to be better about when I watch it. Don't start watching it a half hour before you need to go out to the bar to watch a game because it's not going to be ready in time for you to.
Well, yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
So I wore the Kobe Bryant one for Game 5, and Kobe Bryant's dead, so that probably didn't give me a lot of positive vibes.
Stealing
tell
game
Jason
one would
Joe-
be huge though for the Lakers if they could
Yeah,
get
I mean,
one tonight.
so
That would be
my
huge.
belief is that the Lakers are going to steal tonight's game. They're relatively heavy underdogs. Nuggets are favored by 6.5, I think.
Adam Silver is rooting for him too. So
Sure, why wouldn't he be? I am so sick of that shit. It comes with the territory of being a Lakers fan, though, so it is what it is.
Everyone's like, David Stern would do everything possible to make sure the Nuggets.
David Stern would hire the fucking DC sniper to take out Jokic. He'd get him out of prison just for that.
Again.
Yeah, I guess that would.
They nixed the Chris Paul trade, so I don't know.
That's true, basketball reasons. So tonight's matchup, Lakers Nuggets. I mean, so much of it is going to come down to, like it has the entire playoff run. Which version of Anthony Davis are we going to get, and how do the role players on the Nuggets adjust to what LeBron James and Anthony Davis are doing the entire game? Role players on the Lakers have been good, and you've had guys popping off for anywhere from 20 to 30 points every game, and they're the deepest squad they've been in about 3 years. There's going to be guys in the Lakers that play really well, but how is Aaron Gordon going to be able to contain LeBron James? Because he's likely going to get that matchup. How are Jokic and whoever else they put on Anthony Davis going to be able to contain Anthony Davis? And is Anthony Davis going to try to work on the offensive end, or is he going to try and play defense the entire game and only take, 10 to 12 shots? What version of Anthony Davis we get is going to be so instrumental in how this series goes. And I don't even know if the defense first option is the lesser of those two options. That might be the one that makes the more sense. I have no fucking idea. I'm taking the Lakers tonight. I think they steal game one. I mean, they've done the past two series, they've won in 6 off of stealing game one. So much in this series is going to be instrumental that they steal an early game in Denver, because I don't think they're going to win, a game 5 or a game 7 in Denver. So they're going to need to stack as many wins as they can as early as they can before the elevation and the wear and tear of the series really gets to Davis and to LeBron. But we'll see how it goes. They could also very easily end up getting swept, because Nikola Jokic right now is the best offensive force in the NBA, and he's been showing it throughout the playoffs.
So is AD going to guard Jokic? Is that going to be the matchup?
Well, because Dwight was the stopper back in the bubble. I was going to ask you.
It was a little bit of a combo of Dwight and AD in the bubble, and then I think what's his name played a little bit on him too. Always on Shaq Tin-a-Fool.
JaVale McGee.
Oh, JaVale McGee.
JaVale McGee drew the assignment a little bit too, because he's hyper athletic, and he could give some good fouls, and he could catch some lobs, and he could run the floor a little bit. And you don't have either of those guys anymore. You really don't have any big depth behind Anthony Davis. You have Wenyen Gabriel, who's a pretty small dude for a big, and you have Mo Bamba, who I'm not sure is a real person and exists in the NBA.
He's not going to play.
I don't think he's going to play. And honestly, you don't want him to, because that's just sending Jokic to the line for basically anywhere from 8 to 12 points. I think AD and LeBron are basically, LeBron's probably going to play free safety like he has been doing. AD is going to be on Jokic a lot, but I think the best way to probably win this matchup is to take out the role players as much as you can. So force Jamal Murray to have an inefficient series, force Michael Porter Jr. to put the ball on the floor a lot. His ball handling is not what it needs to be.
Awful.
Try and get the ball into Aaron Gordon's hands. He's not super great from the line, so even if he's driving through contact, like, you can kind of live with that a little bit. But it's going to be, death by 1,000 cuts if they want to beat them, because they're not going to beat Jokic one-on-one. It's just not going to happen.
So what, basically let Jokic get his, and then say, make anybody else beat us?
Let Jokic get his and be jumping passing lanes constantly and just play the most active defense you possibly can, because so often it's let Kevin Durant get his. And that is going to lead to a team losing more often than not if you stop all the other role players, because Kevin Durant's not going to average 13 assists.
Yeah, he's not Jokic.
Jokic might. So it's you've got to be playing super physical defense. It's so important to get a win in Denver in these first 2 games. If they don't, I don't see any way they win this series.
Yeah, you got to win. You got to win one. Because you're right. You're not winning 4 of what, 4 of 6 games after that.
I don't see them winning a game 7, basically no matter what. And if say they drop the first 2 to Denver, I don't see them winning 4 straight.
Yeah,
That's a really tough task playing every other night. So,
Yeah.
Ferentino's thoughts?
I mean, my head says like something like 4-1 Denver, but I think if the Lakers steal one,
I get that.
It's just because they've looked so good, and against like the high-powered Suns too, which I mean, you could say that they looked a little better when they were playing high pace after Chris Paul went down,
Sure.
and like the Nuggets could still play that pace. They could play slow, they could play fast. I mean, just the way Jokic, because yeah, him getting his is him controlling the ball, and he's always looking to pass. And I think everyone on that team buys in and cuts and knows like that they try to get open because he will find them and he will reward players for hustling, which I think is like an underrated aspect. Is you want to move the ball in basketball. Everyone touches the ball and they'll make them play harder. So like literally when Jokic is just looking out for players that are cutting and rewards it, like you could just tell they're playing fun basketball. But again, it's LeBron James and it's Anthony Davis and it's the Lakers. And I mean, I could just see if AD is feeling it, playing a really good game, he could maybe get Jokic into foul trouble early, which could be a recipe for success because AD
We've
is
seen
that
that work.
dynamic of a scorer. So
Yeah.
like there are avenues for the Lakers to win. I just think if the Nuggets are playing at their best and they're the healthiest, and I think the Nuggets and Celtics are better off than they were previously in the bubble. Whereas, like you're right, the Lakers and Heat are a little bit worse. But I'm rooting for you, so I'd like to see the Lakers win tonight. I'll take that.
I think the Nuggets are the best team in the league.
Because the Lakers have had a lot of
doubts.
rest too. Like they've been kind of energized for this game. So if they are going to bring everything, and like I think LeBron knows when he has to take a game early, kind of like that the 2018 finals with J.R. Smith making the boneheaded play. Like if he knows that there's a game that they need to take, I think he'll bring it. So I think LeBron's going to give his best tonight too. Not that he doesn't every night, but like certain games he's just going to coast because of how it is. But I think this is one that they want.
The narrative about LeBron taking game 1s off is no longer super accurate because, like you said, he knows how desperate the stakes are now, and he can't take game 1 off and then win 4 straight games the way he used to. So far in this playoff run, I mean, he's won 2 game 1s. And then obviously if you extend back to the play-in, like the first game he's had with every playoff opponent so far, he's won. And then they've lost game 2. And that's kind of my expectation of what happens tonight. Obviously the Nuggets are significantly better than this year's Warriors or the injured Grizzlies. But like it's the only way that I see them winning the series, and that sucks to say because so much is going to hinge on tonight. And I think the Nuggets are the best team in the playoffs. Like I genuinely.
Speaking of the Grizzlies, Ja Morant flexing on
Ja Morant, toss him idiot.
Just see Gilbert Arenas comment on that. It's like he got the 50-game suspension for doing the.
Gilbert Arenas already had a lot of other issues in the league.
He did.
Ja Morant is going to get a big suspension. They're saying half the season. That's 40 games. So I mean, that's not that different.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people calling Ja Morant that he's Anthony Mackie's character in 8 Mile.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You Clarence, your real name is Clarence.
His real name is Clarence. Yeah.
Moda, your thoughts on Nuggets Lakers before we move on?
Yeah, I really struggle with like what I think is going to happen for tonight's game because like there's really no outcome that would surprise me, and that makes me like hard. It makes it hard to predict. Like I would probably say if this game was played 1,000 times, the scenario that would happen the most often is probably the Nuggets win and cover whatever the spread is because they haven't lost a game yet at home. Yeah. They're literally, I think they've won all. Like they're 6-0 at home.
They've been dominant at home.
And like how many games were they even close? Like they weren't really that close against any of the Suns. I think game 5 against the Timberwolves and they closed it out ended up being close, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But then the other side of it is, like you said, the Lakers have won all 2 of their game 1 so far this year. They know that they have to steal one. And if they're going to steal one, it's going to, the most likely scenario would be that they steal game 1, if it's going to be game 1 or 2. And like, if you look at, yes, the Nuggets are 2-0 in game, both of their game 1s as well, but Jokic hasn't done like a lot in either of those games. And so maybe he's like pulling the LeBron, like feeling out a series and like not being super aggressive and just kind of like giving it to the players, his like teammates to see if he can get them going. But if it's like a cold shooting night for the role players and Jokic isn't forcing it, like I could easily see the Lakers stealing the game tonight. Which I know I talked about every outcome. So no matter what happens, I can claim that I was right. But to get a prediction out there, I do think that the Nuggets win and cover. I think a lot of people.
What is the spread tonight?
It was like 5.5 or 6.5. I can't remember.
6.5 is what it
was. What's like what would you say
morning.
the basketball home court is? I know football, it's like 3 a field goal. Like, is there
Honestly,
like a certain spread?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they attribute.
I don't know if it was like
basketball.
1.5 or something based on home
Football,
court advantage.
yeah.
So it's definitely going to be different for the Nuggets than it will be for other teams. Like Nuggets, Jazz, Warriors.
Just because of the
are all
elevation.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
one
yeah,
for the
Nuggets,
Nuggets too, like-
Nuggets, and Jazz are going to have the elevation.
Yeah.
Warriors, just because it's apparently an insane crowd to play under. And like I've said a million times, I think there's something with the colors behind the basket, but we don't need to get into that. But if there is like a home court advantage that guarantees a certain like extra on the spread, the Nuggets would definitely have the biggest.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to adjust to.
I wonder if in my head they're thinking like it could be a 3-point game, but like spread and home court, they'll do like 5.5 or something, but like it probably could be like a bucket at the end of the game. And I
mean, the
think
upside to the Lakers finishing their previous series in 6 was that I'm assuming, have been in Denver for a few days now. So if they had finished over the weekend, that likely wouldn't be the case. But they
definitely
finished their
early.
series on Thursday night or Friday night or whatever it was. So I'm assuming they've been there for a while.
It's Friday night, yeah.
Friday night, yeah. So my hope is that the
Friday.
Lakers had been there since Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because before we move on to Heat Celtics, and this is actually the case for Heat Celtics as well. The Lakers and the Nuggets are 2-2 against each other. The Heat and Celtics are 2-2 against each other, but they haven't played each other since January. And all of their matchups against each other were like early in the season. The Lakers, 2 of their first 4 games were against the Nuggets. And they went 1-1 even when they were terrible. They played again in December. The Lakers won that one. They played again at the beginning of January. Nuggets won that one. And they both won on each other's courts. But we haven't seen these teams play each other since the trade deadline, which is like it's not an entirely different Lakers squad, but it's a very different.
It pretty much is, yeah.
Yeah. Both by addition by subtraction with Russ, and then you get the addition of Rui. You get Reeves getting way more playing time. You get Vando on the team. You get D'Lo. You even get a little bit of Beasley if he's having a hot shooting night or something like that. So there's just like no data on what this could look like because these teams essentially haven't played each other. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Nuggets one, like there's nothing we can take from the first from those 4 games.
And there's very little that we can take from 2020 because the rosters are so
different. You can't take anything from 2020. Yeah.
LeBron is reduced. Jokic is better than he was then. Anthony Davis is a worse shooter than he was then, but he's a better defender. That's it, basically all you can take from it. And I think Malone's a better coach than he was 3 years ago. So we'll see. I'm taking Lakers in 6, and I'm taking them to win tonight. Ferentinos, what's your prediction?
Nuggets in 5.
I'm taking Nuggets in 6.
And you both have the Lakers winning or losing tonight?
I have the Nuggets winning tonight.
I'm taking Lakers win tonight, Nuggets gentlemen sweep.
Wow.
4 straight.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Heat Celtics. Like I had said a minute ago, these teams haven't played each other in a while. The last time they played was the end of January. The Heat and the Celtics have both won 2 games, although I will say the Heat have won the 2 more recent games. Celtics won early in the season when the Heat were garbage. Heat have won more recently in December and January. The Heat are even bigger underdogs in this one than the Lakers are against the Nuggets. The Heat are +8 underdogs. This one's tough because the Heat in some ways have the personnel that match up really well with the Celtics between Bam and Jimmy. And at one point you would think that like obviously like Tyler Hero and Max Strus and all those guys, Tyler Hero's hand's broken, Jimmy's ankle's fucked up.
Yeah.
Bam disappears in a lot of games, although he's been really good for the past 5 or so games. And the Celtics are coming off that incredible Game 7 performance that might have gotten all of them into a rhythm. Who knows? Where they
Tatum
could
could shoot him out of a series, though. He could win them games, but he also can shoot him out of one.
Let me tell you, Ferentinos, it is my belief that he is not going to have a massive game tomorrow night. Every time Tatum has a bad game, he follows it up with an incredible game. And then usually when he has an incredible game, he follows it up with a mediocre game. So he'll drop 45 and then he'll drop 24.
Yeah, I agree with you on Tatum. I looked into his stats, and he I don't understand why, and I don't know the reason for this, but games 4 through 6, he was 0 for 5 in each of those first quarters. Literally all 3 of those games was 0 for 5 in the first quarter. And then one game he was 2 for 10 in the first half. Another game he was 3 for 11. Another game he was 0 for 10. And then
game
one
6,
of the games,
game 6, he was 0 for 10.
Game 6 was 0 for 10. He ended the game with 19 points, 16 of which came in the fourth quarter. So he got it together. I think and we've made this point 1,000 times now about Tatum. I think the issue is he can get hot when the tough shots are falling, but when they're not falling, he doesn't have a bag. He does have a bag. He doesn't go to the hole and get aggressive. He only did that starting in game 7. He went to the line a ton in game 7, which he never did games 1 through 6. So I agree with you. The more likely scenario is that he's probably cold in game 1, and that he also probably doesn't force the issue and get to the line. So his point total is at 28, 29 and a half. To me, I'm taking that under.
I'm taking the under. Yeah, I would also take the under. I mean, just looking at his shooting splits. You go back to the series against Atlanta. Game 1, 10 for 23. Game 2, 12 for 22. Pretty good. Game 3, 9 for 22. Then 8 for 20. Then 8 for 21. And then the closeout game, 11 for 20. So he alternates between these games that are 55 to 60% from the field to then 35% from the field. And then you had it to an even greater degree against the Sixers, where at one point he goes 14 for 25. And then he's also got a game where he goes 5 for 21. And those games are within a week of each other. And it's just who are you? Which player are you? And I know people kind of have this same feeling towards Anthony Davis, and we talk about this a little bit. And I'm not saying Jason Tatum doesn't contribute when his shot isn't falling. He does. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. He's become a better ball handler. He's become a better distributor. When his shot wasn't falling in game 6, he was still doing a lot of other stuff for the team that was helping keep them in the game. But there's also going to be games where he's going to shoot 30 times. And if he only makes 10 of those shots, I don't see the Celtics winning those games against a team like the Heat that are going to drag them into the fucking mud and are going to make them work for every single thing. That we're going to see scores that are going to be in the 80s. And if Tatum has 24, but he's used up, a third of his team's possessions or even more than that, I don't see them winning. I don't. And that's not to say that I don't see the Celtics winning the series, but if I'm a Celtics fan, I'm more stressed than I should be as the much higher seed in this matchup.
Going against the 8 seed.
Yeah. Going against an 8 seed where their best player is injured and their third best player is not even playing.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler said that last year he knew how to beat him. He's like, you just got to get there again next year and we'll beat him. So
and he was inches away from beating him.
Yeah, if that shot goes in, So is his ankle still messed up?
Oh yeah, it's still there. There's pictures at least yesterday where it was still pretty big. I don't know if you saw the picture before game 6 against the Knicks where it's him in his swim trunks and he's just shredded. The guy is just a fucking Adonis.
Yeah.
And his ankle is the size of a basketball, and he just still looks like the coolest man alive.
Oof.
But you could see in games 4, 5, and 6 of that series, he was driving less. He was going for contact less. He was turning the ball over more. Jimmy's performances fell off a cliff after the ankle happened. And it took a little bit for it to really, really get out of hand. And hopefully the past, 4 days of rest have helped him a little bit. But he's a reduced version of himself. I don't see any reason there's not. Just like LeBron, while still playing like a top 5 player in the league, is a reduced version of himself because he's on a foot and a half.
Yeah, they need Milwaukee's version of Jimmy, or the Jimmy version he played against Milwaukee to have any shot in the series. Yeah, he got injured in game 1, and game 3 when he came back, he had 20. I thought he looked good in game 3, he had 28 points. But yeah, the rest of the games, 20, 27, 19, 24. I also feel part of that is he knew that if they had any chance of beating Milwaukee, he was going to have to go off. I feel like he also knew that against the Knicks, he didn't have to. So he could be a little bit more of a distributor and he could take it a little bit easier because I guess I never saw those pictures, but I thought physically watching him, in the other games. I didn't think he looked that physically diminished. And he's not like a Giannis where he does these like high flying, incredibly athletic
Just
moves.
like, can he cut? Can he get through the pick and roll double teams, like things like that?
And he's very deliberate with his movements and in drawing contact and stuff. So, it's frustrating because I feel like I don't trust the Celtics at all. Like they were begging to lose that series against the Sixers, but Sixers just were begging even harder. If they're playing like any better team, I just don't know if I trust the Heat to be able to score enough. So I think, So like game one, I actually think I like the Heat. I don't know if necessarily to win straight up, but I think it'll be close. Because the Celtics just came off a grueling game 7. Like you can't get up for a game 1 the same way you just did. Like they needed to, like it's very similar to last year when the Celtics went down 3-2 against the Bucks and they like had like to win 2 hard fought games against the Bucks. Mm-hmm. And then they came in game 1 against the Heat and lost. Like, granted, that game was in Miami, but still they lost game 1 as the favorite to the Heat last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened again.
That's what I'm hoping for. So that'd be nice. But I do think the Celtics win it in 7. I could see the Celtics winning game 1, Heat winning game 2. Because I could see like game 1 also being a Jaylen Brown game. I feel like he hasn't really had a statement game in a while, and he's definitely good for a few of those each playoffs. But I think the Heat will make adjustments. I mean, coaching, I definitely give it to the Heat, Spoelstra.
Oh yeah.
Best coach left in the playoffs.
Yeah. And
easy.
Hey, Kevin Love's giving him veteran minutes.
He is, and he's still like, look, he can still rebound. And now that his finger's, I guess, okay, he can kind of shoot the 3 sometimes. The floor. Like there's games where he's like 7 of 10 from 3, and there's games where he's 0 for 10 from 3. So it's like, I mean, you just got to hope that you get a good Kevin Love game and that he's crashing the boards.
But I feel like when you need something going and
the Cavs
at least are getting good ball movement, they really did.
They really did.
To have a guy that can shoot there is so nice. Like I feel like too many people will just pass it up and completely ruin the flow of the offense. But knows when to shoot. But now, what were you saying?
No, just we talked about it before. Bill Simmons has been harping on about this for weeks and weeks, and the fact that the Cavs got bounced in the first round and the Heat are in the conference finals. I mean.
Be insane.
Is it
Bill Simmons, he gets these takes right sometimes. It's not directly because of him, but the Cavs were definitely missing forward depth, and the Heat absolutely needed forward depth. And the fact that they didn't even trade for him, they just waived him and allowed him to sign wherever he wanted. Like, I'm sure you could have gotten something for him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I know we talked about how they're trying to make themselves like a free agent destination. I don't think that's going to be what gets people to come to Cleveland. No one's going to be like, oh shit, they took care of Kevin Love. Come to Cleveland.
You know what makes me want to go to Cleveland? They really took care of Kevin Love.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, baby. Cleveland's for the family.
Yeah. What's the difference in Cleveland and Miami?
Where's Drew Carey at? I don't know. I think the Heat are going to win. I think the Heat, they're pretty big underdogs today. They're +8. I think they're not today, tomorrow. I think they're going to win game 1.
That'd be awesome.
I wouldn't be shocked. I agree with you.
I would love Heat Lakers in the finals would be awesome. It would be pretty cool. The storylines like LeBron going to Miami to play in the finals. I think that'd be sick.
And I haven't looked at how the lines have coincided with the results this playoff run, but there is a bunch of times where I've written like articles about it for the past couple weeks, and the lines have absolutely ended up not being even like remotely accurate. Like there were games where the Warriors were favored by like 3.5 and the Lakers won by 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think when it gets to the playoffs and like everything changes so much compared to the regular season, it's just so much harder to adjust the lines because it's basically like, does this one superstar play like a superstar or do they play just like an average player? That's the difference in like a 25-point swing.
Well, just the Lakers Warriors is really interesting too, because you like saw them when they knew that the game was lost would like rest players, which is like
because both those teams had multiple old dudes that were like, we need to get them off the court ASAP.
That's what I was gonna say. The books can't accurately price because there's so many blowouts in the playoffs, but they're never gonna predict a -9.5, 10.5 spread unless it's like a first round series. And so they can't, like, how many games? I was thinking of this, like the Warriors, Lakers, and the Sixers, Celtics. How many of the games were like close at the end? Like game 1 of the Sixers,
3 of Warriors, Lakers, and that's
in game
2.
Harden's wins.
2 or 2.5 of the Sixers, Celtics was close. Every other game was pretty much decided like in the third or early fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lakers won. Game one was, I think, the most stressful Lakers game of that series. They won game one, but it was like close down the entire way.
Yeah, they were up 14 and then gave up the 14-0 run.
Yeah, they gave up that really, really big run. And then they had to battle back in it. And it was like, oh, fuck. Like the shooters are going to get hot. Warriors are going to take this. And then I think one of the games in LA, they won a relatively close one. But it was like Warriors blowout, Lakers close win, Lakers blowout. And then game 5, it was looking like it was going to be a Lakers win. Then everything completely turned on a dime. Anthony Davis got hurt. LeBron got hurt. Somebody else got hurt. Somebody on the Warriors got hurt. I think Wiggins got hurt. Like things were happening all over the court. And then the war, like they kept Anthony Davis in for 41 minutes, even though he was all fucked up in his head. Like
the concussion.
Yeah. It wasn't a concussion, fortunately, as far as we're aware. But
it wasn't a concussion.
Yeah. Knock on wood. Who knows if that's true or not? But yeah, I mean, somebody had asked me, or we were going back and forth on Reddit a couple days ago, and somebody said 2016 Game 7 between the Warriors and the Cavaliers was the best Game 7 ever. And I'm like, yeah, for historical importance, like that might be true, maybe, but like it's not a good game. Like if you're watching it,
92 to 89,
92 to 89 or 87 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a rock fight the entire time, and it's really similar to 2010 Game 7 between the Celtics and the Lakers, where nobody can hit a shot. It's all rebounding. It's all like a ton of turnovers, tons of fouls.
Yeah,
like
it's all recency bias.
Kobe shot like 6 of 22. Like, didn't he have like a horrible?
He went 10 of 24, I think is what.
Yeah.
It's bad. Or no, 6 of 24, I think is. I think you're right.
I thought it was 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It was a bad shooting night.
That's what Game 7's like.
He did have like 17 rebounds though, so I gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's just Game 7. Tatum put up
Game 7s. Game 7s aren't good. Like they're not good. And those games leading up to Game 7 tend to be blowouts in one direction. Like that's the thing about playoff basketball. You have quarters that are really, really incredible. You don't often have games that are really incredible once it gets to the conference finals and the actual final. Like the first round, super fun because, teams are figuring each other out and they're coming off the regular season and they're trying to figure out their playoff rotations and all that. Once everything locks in and you're 7 guys, like shit gets kind of dumb.
Who's hot and who's not?
The 2017 Cavs, they were beating the Celtics so bad at halftime. Literally, the Monstars weren't beating the Toon Squad that bad. Like, it was insane. I forgot. It was like, the year right after the finals. Someone from the Cavs, I don't think Kyrie had left yet, but maybe Kevin Love was hurt or something. But anyways, their offense was just fucking stupid that year. But I think maybe their team was the same, but the Warriors got KD. So it was like, whatever. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, the year after the Cavs won, they were incredible. They mowed through the playoffs, and then the Warriors had KD, and it didn't matter. Broke basketball for 3 years.
Well, I mean, looking at him, Harden, and Kyrie didn't even make it to the playoffs. It is kind of nuts how all of them are sitting out right now.
Kind of nuts, kind of amazing. As a Nets hater and a Kyrie hater and a Kevin Durant hater, and honestly, one of James Harden's few fans left in the world, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Well, did you see the rumor that Harden might go to the Suns, that the Suns are on his list?
Yeah. And I could see that making sense. I mean, obviously outside of the ASU connection, it's like, you pair him. They're probably going to dump Chris Paul regardless. Because Chris Paul
and Ayton, they're going to dump him too.
They're going to try and dump Ayton, but Chris Paul's next deal is only half, or like the next year of his deal is only half guaranteed. So wherever he goes, they only have to pay him like 18 million instead of 36 million. So I imagine the Suns will likely make an arrangement with somebody where they pay half his deal, somebody else pays the other half, and then he can go sign somewhere else or something like that.
He can go to the Thunder and lead them to the playoffs.
Yeah. Or I mean,
maybe the
SGA would be leading them, but
yeah,
I mean, CP3 would be a fantastic backup guard somewhere if he's willing to take that role. It's just,
go to the
you're 38 years old or whatever it is, 37 years old. Do you even want to take that role? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Chris Paul go somewhere else and not be the primary point guard. I'd love to see him go to a situation where he does not have to be the primary point guard. I don't think he's going to win a title, but he's going to make a lot of players around him way better, and then they might win a title a couple years later.
Yeah.
Him, Doc, and Blake should go back to LA.
Yeah, just
They
destroy
all-
the Clippers. I'm fine with the Clippers getting destroyed. That's fine. I don't care
Yeah.
about them.
They all love each other anyways, for sure.
Shouldn't even be an LA franchise. They should be a San Diego franchise or a Seattle franchise. It makes no sense to keep them in LA.
I am on board with that take.
I mean, they're never going to do it because now they built this $4 billion arena.
Do you think Vegas will get a stadium or a team at some point? I think Vegas gets one.
LeBron's-
With Seattle.
Vegas and Seattle.
Vegas and
Yeah.
Seattle are next up, and the belief is that Vegas is going to be the team where LeBron is like the face, where
Mm.
he'll
Like
be
the owner.
Yeah,
Like
he'll
the
be like a
Michael Jordan
minority
of the-
owner, but he'll be the Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
and then he'll have the opportunity to buy
The
a greater
Vegas,
share of it.
the Vegas goats.
Yeah, I don't know what you'd call them. The Vegas Black
the
Knights.
Kings. They would be the Kings, but they already
That's-
have one.
They already have them.
That'd be
yeah.
really funny though if they still called themselves the Kings.
Kings.
Just with the
They were
Kings
like, "Yo,
existing.
fucking come take it from us."
Yeah, you guys can change your title. You're fine.
The Vegas Chosen Ones, but it's not ONE. It's just the number one with an
Chosen
S
Ones.
after it. Yeah, stupid ass tattoo. Just the worst tattoo. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Oh, let's give our finals predictions, and then really quick before we get out of here, talk about how we think the lottery is going to go. Finals
Ooh.
predictions. Modi, I'm going to start with you.
Nuggets over Heat. I'm gonna take the Heat. I'm gonna take the
Okay,
Celtics,
Nuggets
'cause
over
love
Heat.
it.
'cause I really want it to happen.
We're not going to say number of games, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
we have no
no.
idea. Okay,
Yeah.
Nuggets over Heat.
Nuggets over Celtics. I would think it'd be funny that Jokic wins Finals MVP the year that Embiid wins the regular season MVP.
Oh, please. Honestly, that's the second best reality for me.
Well, that was that was
As an
Giannis.
Embiid hater, dude, I am fucking eating the past couple days.
That was Giannis the year he didn't win MVP. He
Yeah.
won Finals MVP.
Turns out if you don't go crazy hard in the regular season, you have a little bit of gas left for the playoffs. Who knew?
Crazy.
Basically every MVP, with the exception of Michael Jordan and LeBron,
Knew that.
is aware of that. Everybody
Yeah.
else wins it, and then they don't win shit after.
Same thing, like NFL. Not that this is the same at all, but this was the first year the NFL MVP won the Super Bowl in like a long time with Mahomes. I forget.
Yeah, because even the years that Brady won it, he like wouldn't win in the Super Bowl.
And same with Rodgers.
But Pat
Yeah,
Mahomes
so-
is unreal.
Yeah, he's different.
He's pretty good.
Lottery odds.
I feel like I didn't give my prediction because I feel like
Oh,
you
yeah.
know who's gonna be. I'm gonna say bubble rematch, and I'm gonna say Lakers over Heat. I feel like I have to say Lakers over Heat. And crazily enough, despite they're an 8 seed and the Lakers are a 7 seed, if they match up in the finals, the Heat have home court advantage
That's funny.
That
because
is
they have
hilarious.
one more win than the Lakers.
Can you
Would that
imagine
be
an
two of
eight-
the lowest seeds making the finals?
It would
what's the-
honestly, just for the memes, I feel like we have to have those two teams meet up in the
Yeah.
finals.
That's true.
And
That's
that
true.
honestly, like, granted, a lot of teams are not the Heat, a lot of teams are not the Lakers. Of course, they don't have LeBron, they don't have Jimmy Butler, they don't have Spo, like all these things. If that doesn't justify to half the organizations in the NBA that you should try and make the play in, and you should try and be a competitive team throughout the year, if you're not going to be a bottom 3 team, then nothing will. Because I mean,
Yeah.
play-in teams are not supposed to go this far.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
This is proving the play-in experiment works. Granted, external factors.
If you have
Uh,
a top 5 playoff.
If you have
performer.
one of the best players ever, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A
But
lot
I
of
mean, just
injuries.
why doesn't everyone just go out and get Hall of Fame players? I
Why
mean,
can't
that
they all
doesn't
just
make any
be Jimmy
sense to me.
Butler?
Why can't every team be the 2008 Celtics, where other teams conspire to give you their Hall of Famers?
Yeah.
Why can't every city have as many Instagram models and beaches?
Miami and LA.
Miami and LA, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I would enjoy playing in either one of those cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take the Lakers. I don't know how many games it would be. Lakers sweep. Let's fucking go.
Lakers in 4.
Hey.
Yeah,
I mean, if
so
it
I'm
was
taking-
Lakers Heat, I honestly think that'd be like the worst basketball matchup because I think the
Oh, it'd be
Lakers would
terrible.
fleece them.
Terrible.
I think the Lakers would
It'd be a
actually
rock
win,
fight.
like
It-
4-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be, because I mean, Bam's offense would fall apart. I mean, we've already seen that matchup. We know what happens in that matchup.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Butler could be just transcendent again. I don't know if you remember those bubble games, that bubble
Oh, yeah, 'cause
finals.
they did
There were a
have-
couple games where Jimmy Butler was the best player on earth.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they were missing Bam and Dragic for 2
Yeah.
of 3 of those games or something.
And he fucking put on the backpack and said,
Yeah,
"I
that was
got
the
this."
meme of him like hunched over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible Jimmy Butler performance. Incredible career for Jimmy Butler that I'm really
Yeah.
excited to do a deep dive on once he's retired.
Love Jimmy.
Because he was not supposed to be this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lottery odds. Let's talk about them really quickly before we get out of here.
Let's go Spurs.
It's going to be the Spurs.
Okay. Do you guys think so? I also think Spurs. I think the Spurs are going to be the number one pick.
I would love
really
it
quick,
if it was the Spurs.
Detroit and San Antonio and Houston are all tied with 14% chance of getting the number one pick, 13.4 for the number two pick, 12.7 for number three, and then 12 for the number four. And then things get a little different. Detroit can at worst get the number 5 pick. San Antonio can at worst get the number 6 pick. Houston can at worst get the number 7 pick. And then it kind of breaks down from there. Let's just do our order for who we think the top 5 picks are going to. Ferentinos, let's start with you.
I mean, I think the Spurs go, and then it's obviously Wemby's going to get drafted there.
Sure. I don't even need to know what players going where. We don't need to talk about Brandon Miller.
Let's go
and this
Spurs, Houston. I'll throw Elliott a bone. Well, no, by throwing Elliott a bone, I'm going to go Spurs, Raptors, Houston, Pistons, and Magic.
So just to be clear, 5. The Raptors have a 1% chance of getting the number 2 pick. And you're like, that 1% chance is all
1.11%.
That's true. Okay.
Give him some props.
All right. Modai, what's yours?
Crazier things have happened.
That's true.
I think it would be hilarious if the Mavs got the number 1 pick. So
oh my God.
I'm kind of rooting for that.
So insufferable.
Just for chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. I think that would be so funny if that happened. But give me San Antonio number 1. We're going to go with, I'm trying to think, like, one of those top 3 teams is going to go to 5. One of them is going to get screwed. And I'm trying to figure out, it's probably going to be Houston. I think it's
Houston. I think Houston's going to fall out of the top 3.
Yeah. So it's going to be,
because they've had a lot. I mean, granted, is it fixed? Is it not fixed? But like Houston's had a lot of lottery luck lately. Yeah. I don't want them in the top 3.
It's going to be San Antonio number 1. We're going to go Portland number 2. I think that Dame's going to get Scoot. Detroit number 3. Give me Charlotte 4, and give me I guess Indiana doesn't have a chance to be 5. So give me Detroit or Houston 5.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go San Antonio 1, Portland 2, Detroit 3, Houston 4, and fuck. I hate Charlotte Wizards. 5. Because the Wizards can't. They have to be top 4 or else they're like 8 or 9. Yeah. I think Charlotte 5. I feel so bad about even picking Charlotte in the top 5.
They're a sad team.
They're a sad organization. Maybe I flip 4 and 5 so that I can get the Wizards in there at 4, and then I just get Charlotte out of the top 5. I don't want them. I don't think the league wants them in the top 5.
That'd
Although if MJ is selling the team, it would be good for them to have a number 1 pick to increase the value of the team. That is something that you got to consider. But I think San Antonio, I think there's a lot of people that are thinking San Antonio.
Yeah, it seems preordained.
It's the best potential reality, because I don't trust any one of these other teams in the top 10 to develop him the way that I think San Antonio could develop.
Yeah, Popovich getting like, especially another international superstar would just be fun to watch.
It's one last ride.
Yeah,
I could see some Indiana, some Halliburton, Wemby going.
Sure.
Well.
If Indiana gets him, you think they move off Miles Turner immediately? Or they try and make it work.
I think they try to make. They try to make it work with Sabonis and Miles Turner. I think
you put Turner. You like have him switch back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I got to go to the dentist.
Go to the dentist. Have a great time. Nobody enjoys going to the dentist.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst.
I wish you the best of luck. Boys, as always, appreciate you taking the time. Like I said at the beginning of the show, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you click the like button, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you comment below who you think is going to win the Western Conference Finals. And if you want your finals predictions, if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other audio platform, make sure you click that follow button. Make sure you rate and review 5 stars. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of our previous episodes or any future episodes, make sure you're sharing us with your friends so that they can tune in for the Give and Go show as well. And we will be back next week to talk about the first 3 games of the conference finals. Yeah, the first 3 games of the conference finals. All right, looking forward to it.
Peace.
Get
boys.
it. Peace,
Peace.
boys.